G'day guys, welcome. We're only a couple of days away before it finally happens. It's been a long build and geez, I think we're all a little bit sick and tired of hearing the same old names mentioned for the upcoming draft. And that's no disrespect for those boys because they've certainly deserved their names to be in the spotlight. But how many mock drafts do you really want to see? Are you getting anything different? Are there any other potential players out there who could be some real long shots, some real smokies coming up to this year's draft? And that's where I want to take this video. So I'm going to mention 7 players that have caught my eye across this season from the Coates Talent League, which I've watched pretty closely this year, as I said I would. I've been to a lot of games, and these players that I'm going to mention are real long shots. Maybe really late in the draft, who knows, rookie, pre-season draft, whatever that may be, mid-season draft next year. But I don't want to mention the same names. I think we're getting a real indication of who the guys are who will be taken early in the draft, second, third round. And then post that, you start to see potentially some real surprises. So that's where I want to take this. These guys, I don't think necessarily will get picked up, but they caught my eye, and I think they're really good footballers. And I think, given the right development, given an opportunity, I think they could equip themselves quite well at the highest level. Now, probably what will happen is they won't get that opportunity. They'll have to go back through local football or through the VFL. That's probably where you want to get to, and I think they've all got claims to be able to do that, and then go through, which I like to call go through the back door. So the draft will be this Wednesday and Thursday, then the rookie draft on Friday. There were 1,044 players nominated, and those nominations closed last Wednesday at 3 p.m. That's a lot of players, and there's only 60-odd are going to be taken. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of players, and some blokes are taking the piss. They really are. I mean, I went through this list yesterday, and there's one guy here from Anarchy, and I'm not going to mention his name because there's a couple of players from Anarchy. There's a big Sudanese boy who's the ruckman who played Geelong VFL, who's a real he could make it. He could get picked up. But there's another guy from Anarchy. So I checked his player HQ, and he played the whole season in the reserves at Anarchy. Now, Anarchy Football Club are part of the Geelong and District Football League, which is it's paddock football. It's okay. It's paddock football, but he's played the whole season in the reserves, and he's nominated for the AFL Draft, which I don't know. I don't know if that's right when you look at players on here who's clearly just doing it as a joke, and we're talking about this is an elite competition. But anyway, let's go to the 7 players. As I said, these guys I've seen play live, and then I've tracked them for the whole year. And I don't know, you just like certain players, when you see them play and what they're able to do, and then you follow them. You follow them statistically. You follow them when they go back and play with their local club, because in the Coates Talent League, you don't play every week. You might play a block of 3 or 4 games and have 3 weeks off where you go back and play. You might go back and play for Barwon Heads in the Bellarine Football League. So senior football, that is. So I'm going to talk first. The first player I want to talk about is a small forward. He's 18 years of age. His name's Cooper Ward, out of the Geelong Falcons. And I mentioned Barwon Heads because that's his home club. I watched him play twice this year, both at Churnside Park, once against the Oakley Chargers and the other time against the Western Jets. But it was a game against the Oakley Chargers where I suppose he put his name up in lights. He kicked 7 goals for, and arguably the best individual performance by a small forward this year, arguably. But he's probably well behind the likes of Isaac Keiko and Berry as well from the Murray Bushrangers and a couple of others. So he's a real smoky. I don't know about how he's tested. I don't think he was invited to any of the combines. I don't think he was invited to the state combine. So I'm not quite sure what his 2K time trial is like. But he's got some speed, he's got some power, 178 centimetres, some real nous in front of the big sticks, bit cheeky, got the red hair, beautiful kick. He's a finisher. I mean, he can kick him from anywhere. And he's not bad. He's not bad overhead for his size. And that game against Oakley was a real eye catcher. He was absolutely everywhere, really ignited. And there's something about small forwards. The ones I like are the ones that can get the team going. And he's got that about him. So it wasn't just that game though. Ended up kicking, I think 27 goals, 19 for the season. And the thing that impressed me with him was when he went back to Barwon Heads, his local club in the Bellarine Football League, which is pretty strong. Now, we remember, I think it was last year that Oliver Wiltshire was picked up by Geelong, another former Geelong Falcon player. He was picked up in the draft from Barwon Heads. So it's not unusual for that to happen. So it's a high quality of senior football. It's not the best league in Geelong. But he played the 5 games of senior football as an 18-year-old and kicked 16 goals as a small forward and was named in the best players 3 times. And in one game, he was best on ground and got the 10 coaches' votes in the Bellarine Football League. As I said, he's got some real power, some speed, and he's not one-dimensional. Now, the front half is where he really shone at this level, but he can accumulate. He can get up the ground. He had a couple of games where he had more than 20 touches, which is a fair effort. And he's one to watch out for. You know, if you're looking for that dynamic small forward with a bit of, with a bit still left in him. And if you can get, I wouldn't say he's cut. You look at his physique and, he's got a bit of that country football look about him. But a couple of big pre-seasons and really strengthen and tone that body up. Yeah, he's a natural footballer who can find the big sticks, and that is Cooper Ward. I'm giving him a bit of love from the Geelong Falcons. A guy that really impressed me in a game down at Churnside Park, I get to a lot of games at Churnside Park, it's about a torpedo punt from my house in Werribee. There's a lot of Coates Talent League games down there, so I'm quite lucky. It was a game between Bendigo and Geelong Falcons. Now, on this day, Geelong Falcons won. But a guy that impressed me for the Bendigo Pioneers, he only had 3 touches in this game. And I'd seen him play in some live streams. He played in the ruck at the start of the year. I think he's of African descent. I'm not quite sure. His name's Zaden Lockwood. He's from South Bendigo. He played some senior games with South Bendigo this year when he wasn't playing for the Bendigos in, I think, 4 games, and he was named in the best players 3 times for them. He's 198 centimetres. Played 1 game as a bottom ager. So he played a bit in the ruck as an undersized ruck. Good leap. He's really skinny. Got the long arms and the long legs, and spent some time forward, kicked a couple of goals in 1 game. But the game I watched against the Falcons, he played as a key defender, a lockdown defender, and he only had 3 touches. But to me, he just stood out. Closing speed, athletic traits, seemed to be a really good competitor, and it seemed like he knew what he was doing as a defender. Like he was sort of closing the angles, and he kept his direct opponent pretty bloody quiet, which was really impressive in this game. It was round 17 late in the year. So I know he represented, I think, Vic Country in a diversity game. So maybe he's part of a next generation academy. I'm not quite sure. So Zaden Lockwood, this one's a real long shot, because I know he signed with South Bendigo this year to play with them in 2025. So I'm not quite sure if he's on anyone's radar, but you can't miss him. You can't miss him when you watch him. He's got something about him. So that's Zaden Lockwood from the Bendigo Pioneers. One of my favourites this year, and I watched him play in a practice game in February, really warm day at Seaford, which I think is the home base for the Dandenong Stingrays down at Seaford. Playing against the Western Jets in a pracky. That's Jordan Doherty, 199 centimetre. And I think that, at that height, that's an undersized ruckman at AFL level. He's was an overage player. So he's been in the Coates Talent League for a period of time. It's taken a while to get going. Like you look at his numbers. He only played the one game in 2022 as a bottom major, 6 in 2023 in his draft year, and then 16 this year where he really got going. And this practice game, I just watched him and straight away I thought, this is a guy with tremendous skill for a big man. Really good kick on his left side, even though he's a right footer, good at ground level, follow-up type of ruckman. Not a great crafty ruckman in regards to, what he's able to do and service his midfielders, but his ability to get involved in chains of play, link up, really smart, read the play really well, just stood out for me. And followed him at the start of the year. Took a bit of time to get going. I remember watching the live stream of the Dandenong Stingrays' first game of the year against the Geelong Falcons at Deakin University in Geelong, and I'm 100% sure I could hear on the live stream the Stingrays coach just berating him, like yelling out, like, get going, Jordan. So I did speak to a recruiter about him. He trialled for Vic Country in the trials for the Nationals down at Chirnside Park. Once again, Chirnside Park. And I did speak to a recruiter about him. And they just sort of said he's just lacked the intensity as a young player. And that often happens with the big boys. They take a little bit of time to get going. But his form just improved, and he just started looking at his numbers, like good hit-out numbers, not great, but it was more his disposals around the ground. And then as the year progressed, he drifted forward and was a real threat, ended up kicking 13 goals and averaged 17 touches. And as I said, he's a volume-type player, like huge disposal getter for a big man. I like that, big men who are really good at ground level. And he was called up for one Vic Country game in the Nationals against the Allies. And I thought he's pretty unlucky only to get the one game. I think they went with Floyd Burmeister in the ruck. He's very, very likely to go sort of as a second, third rounder. But I actually rate, maybe not athletically, but I rate this Jordan Dowie every bit as good as Floyd Burmeister in terms of a natural footballer. I think it's been a slow build for this guy. Definitely will go back to VFL level if he doesn't make it. So I'd be interested to see, because I don't think he played any VFL games this year. I don't think he got an opportunity to play VFL football, but he did go back and play one game for Sorrento. So one to look out for, Jordan Doherty from Sorrento. One of my favourites, only because it's the club that I follow, the Western Jets. Xavier Gachi, 18-year-old from Sunshine, the place where I was born. Love the Western Suburbs, really like this player. I don't think he'll get picked up because he's just, to me, he's one of those players that doesn't stand out in terms of his athletic qualities, but he's a natural footballer. A really nice footballer to watch, good on both sides of his body, really clean, great kick, good decision maker, works pretty hard, finished top 10 in the Morris Medal. Didn't play one game in his bottom age year for the Western Jets last year. Was on the list but didn't play one game, but strung together every game this year and won their best and fairest. And then went back when the season was finished, went back and played in the senior premiership for Sunshine in the Western Region Football League. Trialled early in the year after an outstanding start to the season with the Vic Metro for the trial games for the national championships, but it's a star-studded midfield at that level, and he was probably never going to break into that. But I reckon in any other year, he probably would have. And he's a real smoky. But I'm keeping an eye on this kid. I really am, because I want to see him succeed. I think he's got what it takes, because he is a natural footballer. So that's Xavier Gachi, big disposal winner. I think he averaged 24, 25 disposals a game and had a couple of big, massive games where he had, sort of mid-30s. Player number 5. Now, this guy caught my eye in one game late in the season. That was the wild card round at Mars Stadium in Ballarat on a windy day. It was the last game of a day. I think it was the Saturday where they had 3 games in a row. It was a wild card round, and Sandy, the eventual premiers, they were playing the Western Jets. They gave the Western Jets a bit of a hiding, actually, and this guy had a blinder. His name's Lan Voss. He had 27 touches in that game, playing pretty much as a sort of roaming centre forward to get up the ground, then gave Brodie Finlay a bit of a chop out in the ruck. 199 centimetres, had some injuries throughout his Coat Talent League days. He's played in back-to-back flags with the Sandy Dragons, only played 8 games in his draft year and then came back this year and strung together 14. 3 games in his first year and his bottom age year for the Dragons. Really mobile, from Port Colts. Now, it's funny actually because Port Colts are really tough footy club, and he had some real aggression about him in this game. Yeah, he had some sort of this quiet aggression about him for a big man. Still light, still got a little bit of growing to do in terms of his size. Maybe not. I mean, he's 20 in April. He's a little bit the same as Jordan Doherty. But he was outstanding in that wild card round when it really counted for the Dragons. I thought he was the best player that day, although they were raving about Ashcroft and Murphy Reid, and I thought he was their best player. And then he followed it up with a really good game against the Cannons in the quarterfinal the week later when he had 19 touches. So he played 14 games this year, averaged 13 touches and 5 marks. My only knock on him is where does he fit in? Because he doesn't hit the scoreboard. I only kicked 1 goal this year as a sort of roaming sort of forward. So that's probably one area of the game that's probably a knock on him, his ability to impact the scoreboard. But as a big, mobile, sort of key position prospect, there's something really sort of quite good about this kid, Lan Voss. Okay, number 6, another player that caught my eye in one game, and this was a wet day at Mars Stadium in Ballarat. I was back maybe around about round 8. GWV Rebels. His name's Archie Kello. Now, he's only 189 centimetres, but they were playing him in the ruck in this game, and he was playing up against Lucas Impey, who's 200 centimetres and probably the best ruckman in the Coates Talent League in regards to strength, and he's a very good ruckman at that level. But they had this Archie Kello, who's 189, playing in the ruck. But it's what he was doing at ground level and his follow-up work that caught my eye, just his power and his speed. And I looked at him and thought, a little bit robotic, but he was winning the ball and kicking it really long. And then I just started following him, and he just got better. Like as the season progressed, he was racking up the disposals, a couple of 28 disposal game, and did a little bit more sort of research on him. And he's from St. Pat's in Ballarat, and I think he captained their first 18 football team and won the best and fairest. And he's an athletic star, a junior athletic star in the 3,000 metres, 1,500, 800, just an absolute gun. Won gold medals at national level, and even went to the Stall Gift this season and ran in the 1,600 metres at the Stall Gift. So he's an elite runner, and it shows on the ground. Whether he has the natural footy nous is questionable, but if you're looking at a pure athlete and someone who's got some genuine power, but you look at his numbers from a disposal point of view, well, he can find the pill. Like, he can actually find it. And I really like the look of him because he's solid and raw and sort of exciting. So that's Archie Kello. If he doesn't get picked up, will he get another year as an overager? I'm not quite sure. I'd be fascinated to see where he goes post this year if he's not on an AFL list. Now, the final player I want to talk about, and this is my favourite player. He will not get picked up, but I just love him. I love him to pieces. His name's Riley Leadham from the Calder Cannons. Played 28 games in the Coates Talent League over the last 2 seasons, 13 in his bottom age year and then 15 this year, and you can't miss him. When you go and watch a Calder Cannons game, you just cannot miss this guy. He's from Gisborne. You look at him when he runs out onto the ground and he goes to his position at full forward. You look like they've dragged this guy from bloody Wallen reserves, and they need someone to fill in. He just looks like a country footballer. He's big, he's solid, he's a thumping left foot, really good goal kicker. He only kicked 13 goals this year, which is a bit of a surprise. It felt like he kicked more than that, but he did spend a lot of games playing as the sole ruckman as well. He's as strong as an ox, quite athletic for his size. Like, he's a robust sort of guy, but he's a natural footballer. And you look at him from the sidelines, you think this guy looks 25, 26 years of age. He looks like your typical country footballer. And then you go out to the huddle, and then there's this guy, this big fella with a baby face. That's Riley Leadham from the Calder Cannons. He's not going to make it. He just doesn't, I suppose, look the part, which is disappointed. But I just can't wait to see what happens to this kid once he finishes his time in the Coates Talent League. This was his top age year, but he's a really young top ager. So he just turned 18 2 years ago. He just turned 18 2 days ago. So he's a real young top ager. So maybe he gets another crack in the Coates Talent League next year as a overager, because all the clubs can take, I think, 5 or 6 players into the following season as overages. Anyway, there's 7 players, guys, real smokies coming up for the national draft that I think we should all keep a look out for. Take care. Speak soon.